Oh, this is gonna be crazy. That was great. Alright, hello everyone and welcome to another episode of SpraynPray1000's Verdict. In fact, it is the first one for the new year, so technically we are now in Season 2 of SpraynPray1000's Verdict. And I've decided, well, as you'll see, today we're actually going to talk about a game that came out in 2013. However, for a couple of reasons, I've decided that I'm going to move the Verdict into the 2014 playlist. The reasons are actually kind of limitless, but no, they're not. The reason, one, is because if I want the 2014 playlist to appear on my channel, I need to have at least one video in it, and I don't want to put in like a filler video. That doesn't make sense. You know, it's a Verdict series. So having one video would let it appear. Another reason is, let's face it, you know, not really too, you know, it's not very important if I put it in one year or another. You know what I mean? Not too many people are going to, lose themselves and just like completely flip out. You know, so it really doesn't matter in terms of that. I don't think it's going to raise any panic. And I don't know, just what do you want me to say? You know, this is a game I actually did not. This is a game I actually beat, I believe, like a week and a half ago. But now is actually like the first chance I've really, been able to sit down and record my verdict on it. The game is Assassin's Creed 4, okay? And it's going to be one of the 2 or 3 games from 2013 that are unfortunately going to be put into the second season of SpraynPray1000's Verdict. So I apologize for that intro. You know, I just wanted to say that it's a game that was released in 2013. But I did not actually get to review it until 2014 for various reasons. Ow. That actually kind of hurt. So, without further ado, let's begin. What is Assassin's Creed 4? Okay, Assassin's Creed 4 is the fourth, well, see, that's where you're wrong. It is not the fourth major game in the Assassin's Creed line. It's something more like the, I want to say the sixth game in the, sixth major game in the Assassin's Creed line. And it focuses on basically the end of the age of piracy in the West Indies Sea. The main character is Edward Kenway. He is grandfather to Connor Kenway, who is actually the protagonist of Assassin's Creed 3. And his exploits basically with the pirates in the area. You know, how he wants to go from basically rags to riches and acquire enough money that he can, basically live out his life and not have to worry about it. And in fact, some of the advertisements for this game were kind of similar to Grand Theft Auto 5. It's setting up the big heist, the big score. And really, I think what they wanted to do with this game is they wanted to make it as accessible to Assassin's Creed, series fans as it is to people who have no clue what the series is and basically just want to play a pirate game, because pirates are often, at least from what I'd like to say, are not too popular a genre, okay? So Assassin's Creed 4 basically has 2 goals: to satisfy people who like the franchise and people who like pirates, want to play a pirate game, because it basically goes off to say, that this is one of the best pirate open world games there is out there. And for that statement, I'll say I've been around gaming for a long time. It's been something that I've been doing for such a long time now. I haven't really seen too many other pirate games. I only know about a couple, but none of them have received even just the amount of attention, just forget acclaim for a minute, the attention that Assassin's Creed 4 has. So I'll wager, I'll go out and I'll say that Assassin's Creed 4 might be one of the best pirate video games ever made, okay? Now, of course, because it's an Assassin's Creed game, they still find it necessary to have heavy emphasis, or not heavy emphasis, but a decent amount of emphasis on the real-world aspect of Assassin's Creed. So in every Assassin's Creed, there's always a sequence where you play as someone from the real world. Up until Assassin's Creed 3, that person was Desmond Miles. But after the events of Assassin's Creed 3, you actually play as someone different. You play as an unnamed person working at Abstergo Entertainment, which is actually a branch of Abstergo dedicated to setting up, I forget if they're movies or video games based on the time periods in Assassin's Creed. And they even tout that Assassin's Creed Liberation is actually one of their products. So you play as this guy from the first person, so you never know if it's actually a guy or a girl. I don't think they ever make that specification. It's one of those characters where you fill in the blanks as though it's really you. And basically, those sequences are just about as boring and as bland as they've ever been. Although they do try to spice it up in this one. They do kind of reward you for going out of the way and, actually doing some of the stuff involving the real world. So, for example, there's collectibles you can find around the office. There's mandatory story sequences involving you and other people. The story definitely continues from Assassin's Creed 3 after Desmond made his choice. So definitely, it's a sequel, you know what I mean? It's not like it's just some random guy, it's not related. There are going to be some characters you recognize. There's data files that shed a lot of light on, some of the closer events of Assassin's Creed 3, some of the events that were more pivotal in that story. So yeah, they have that. And also there's hints that, this might be leading to another arc in the saga. This might be another progression. Hold on a second. Oh my god. Okay, mute this. Thank you. Yes. That this might be another progression in the Assassin's Creed line of games. So, now that I've talked about the boring, the boring, generic, cut and dry, real world sequences, let's talk about what actually gets down. Let's talk about the meaty part of the game, okay? Now, Assassin's Creed 4, obviously like all the other Assassin's Creeds, the major gameplay emphasis for the single player is on the actual assassin that's in question here. So, for example, in Assassin's Creed 1, you played as Altair. In Assassin's Creed 2, you played as Ezio. 2, Brotherhood and Revelations were all Ezio. In Assassin's Creed 3, you played as Connor. Now in Assassin's Creed 4, you play as Connor's grandfather, Edward Kenway. So basically, you get introduced to Edward. He's basically a bottom-of-the-barrel pirate. And after the events of a shipwrecking and whatnot, he gets drawn into this open world featuring the Templars, the Assassins, and he basically, his goal is to become the best pirate there ever was, accrue a bunch of gold, basically make a life for himself, his crew, etc., etc. And that's kind of how the game goes. I actually like that about the game. I actually think that for the first couple of sequences, this is actually something that I do like about the game, but at the same time, I think that if it was integrated better, I would like it even more. And at some points, I don't like it. It's the fact that more often than not throughout the game, you'll basically feel like Edward is chasing two goals, okay? He's chasing the dream of piracy, but then the Assassins versus Templar storyline is always in the back seat, like whispering directions in the ear of the actual pirate adventure. So here's the way you can look at this, okay? There's the normal way. You're familiar with other Assassin's Creeds, you've played them. Also, there's the way that if you just want a pirate adventure, how does this look? And I'll tell you, and I'll probably be right, that if you don't know anyone who knows anything, or well, if you know someone who doesn't know anything about the Assassin's Creed, storyline and all the stuff about the first civilization and whatnot, that that they've been pushing on us since, what was it, Assassin's Creed 2, when they really diversified the story, you're probably going to be very confused, or whoever you know is probably going to be very confused at first, because again, that's something they've been building up, and obviously jumping into number 4, it's not going to be too clearly explained. Now, there's going to be database logs you can read to maybe fill in the blanks, you know what I mean? There's going to be all this other stuff, but sometimes I feel that during the story they just kind of expect you to know it, which, again, it's the 4th line of game, so that's something different. That being said, I did like Assassin's Creed 4. I did like Edward Kenway, definitely as a character, pretty much more than Connor, for various reasons. Now, don't get me wrong, I can kind of relate to Connor. I can kind of understand his character, you know, what they were trying to go for. But at some points in that game, and also my playthrough of that game was pretty bad, so I'll just admit that right there. That playthrough was a sham. I admit it. It was a bad week for me. We had a lot of stuff going on, you know, between Hurricane Sandy and just October not being a good month for me. So I admit it. The playthrough probably could have been much better. Probably. Oh, God. It definitely could have been much better. I'll admit that right now. So I tried to make up with that. For the sham that was Assassin's Creed 3 and Assassin's Creed 4. So, Assassin's Creed 3, though, I still think was only a mediocre game. I really didn't like it too much. But I definitely know I could have done a better job of handling that. So now, Assassin's Creed 4, I definitely spent a lot of time, you know, going around basically almost 100%ing the game, the single-player story. Really, the only thing I didn't do is the buried treasures, which is just like collectible hunting, or the assassin contracts. Because I feel like a lot of other games that do this, they're superfluous, they're very time-consuming. Like, if you want to get to 100%, you definitely can go do it. But it's a real time-consuming process. You know, I pretty much collected all the collectibles in the game, all the chests, all the, what do you call them? Trying to think here, I'm sorry. All the animus fragments, which are little particles. Unfortunately, unlike in the other Assassin's Creeds where sometimes collecting these has an effect, they had no effect in this game. It was just for challenges, and that was kind of disappointing. Now, the actual gameplay of Assassin's Creed 4 isn't bad, but here's my problem with it. The game has glitches and bugs, and it's unfortunate. But it feels like at some points it just is not polished. Now, let me say what I did like, okay? One of the things that I did like from Assassin's Creed 4 is that they let you rate missions based on how well they play, how good they are. So let's say there's a mission that's really, really good. It had a lot of combat, a lot of diverse stuff going on, really good with the story and everything. You can rate that mission out of 5 stars once you've completed it. Likewise, if there's a mission that's really bad, you didn't like it, it's really boring, it's kind of whatever, it's kind of shitty and not well done, you can rate that, you know, anywhere from like 1, 2, 3 stars. You know what I mean? So you can do that, and I think that's really good. That's a nice feature that a lot of games kind of do need. You know, just a brief survey. You know, nothing that'll take me more than like a couple seconds to, you know, replay all the events and decide if I like them or not. So that's a good feature. I like that about Assassin's Creed 4. What I don't like about that feature is that they don't seem to integrate it widely enough. So, for example, there will be some missions that are, you know, like little side missions, not mandatory story missions, that aren't well done and aren't that great and have glitchiness and, you know, aren't completely overall well done. And unfortunately, those are the missions you cannot rate. So the rating system, for the most part, I'll say that the story, I didn't have a problem with it. I thought the story of this game was really interesting and it had me hooked until the end. That being said, I did think it was kind of slow at some points. It kind of dragged on, was kind of weird. But that's something different, you know what I mean? That's to me, that's just a whatever, but the story was still enjoyable for the most part. And I enjoyed it, so it was good. Now, the problem is you can't rate the missions that aren't that good. So that was kind of disappointing to me. Another thing that I found kind of disappointing at a lot of points is the fact that the combat system is still basically about like 80% the same from Assassin's Creed 3. Maybe not 80%. Maybe that's a little too harsh. Maybe something like 40 to 50% the same from Assassin's Creed 3. A lot of times very silly stuff will happen, especially involving the counter. So for example, like let's say you're doing and this is where it happens the most. Let's say you're doing a shipboarding, okay? Basically, when you play Assassin's Creed, whenever you're running around, you're out in the open, it's fine. Whenever you draw your weapons and begin combat, that's something different, okay? The camera is supposed to shift to a more isometric view so you can see who's coming from where, who to counter, who to kill, you know, who to attack, who to do special stuff to. That's what's supposed to happen. What ends up happening in Assassin's Creed 4 is that a lot of times, especially if you're doing the shipboardings, which that's a whole aspect of the game I haven't even touched on, when you're doing the shipboardings, the camera and just the combat system in general can't really seem to calculate every little thing that's going on around you. And at some points, you'll draw your swords and you won't get counter icons. Sometimes you'll press a circle to do a counter, but the game won't recognize that you're in combat properly, so you can get hit off of that. Sometimes it'll recommend that you break the defense of enemies who will counter you if you break the defense. Sometimes it drops combat inputs. So sometimes it can be really weird and really kind of frustrating at some points, especially in, you know, these sequences where, hey, you know, it's a very rough battle. There's a lot of stuff you have to do, flying around the ship, blowing up stuff, and killing certain people. And it can be very frustrating if you lose some life, you know, just because your character didn't counter when you press circle and other stuff along those lines. But for the most part, I think the game plays very, very similarly to Assassin's Creed 3. You know, you have your standard flintlock pistols, you have your swords, you have your hidden blades. You have a lot of the tools that appeared in Assassin's Creed 3. They reduced, basically they went back to the old style of selecting weapons where, you know, you didn't have to go to a separate screen. I don't know why the hell they did that in Assassin's Creed 3. Basically, every time you would want to switch weapons or switch anything, you would have to press L2 to completely pause the game and load a separate screen. I have no clue what the hell they were thinking with that. That was completely flow breaking. In this game, you basically choose on the fly. Now, it doesn't pause the game like the Ezio line of games, so actually it's kind of more similar to Assassin's Creed 1's inventory selection. That's not too bad. Definitely some of the areas, definitely, you know, they're big, they're expansive, there's a lot of stuff to do. There's a lot of notes to find, a lot of stuff to read, a lot of backstory to really fill in. And now, so for the most part, I say that the hand-to-hand combat is pretty much what it's always been. Now, just very briefly, the stealth in this game is pretty much like your standard fare for Assassin's Creed. You can hire people to stand around you and blend. You can blend with people as they're moving about the town. There's eavesdropping missions where you need to eavesdrop on someone and listen to what they have to say. There's a lot of stuff that, you know, that happens, and you can do it. You now have sleep darts that you can put people to sleep. You can, well, that's not very stealthy, but also the sleep darts have a companion known as the berserk darts, which drive people insane. You know, makes enemies attack each other. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting tools you have that you can play with, and it's interesting to play. You know, definitely this game is fun to sit down and really play. You know, despite its, you know, problems and grimaces and whatnot. It's pretty good. Now, the naval combat in this game is basically, because you're a pirate, you eventually get your own ship. And now what you can do with this ship is actually something that they did in Assassin's Creed 3. You can upgrade your ship as you sail around. And in fact, it's such a major part of the game that a lot of times in the game you'll be doing naval stealth missions. You'll be doing you know, sailing missions, full-on combat. With the various English and Spanish fleets that you'll be encountering. Your ship can get a lot of different stuff. You can get cannons on all sides. You can get heavy armor. You can get mortars, which are really helpful for long-range engagements. You can get heavy shot, which is very good at point blank. There's a lot of good stuff to do about the naval sequences, and I'll say right now that the naval sequences in this game were not only good, but they were fun. You know, they were very interesting, and I enjoyed them. As opposed to Assassin's Creed 3, where I didn't really enjoy them. Now, what else? You can upgrade. There's crafting in this game, is how you actually upgrade your stuff. By basically, you go out, you go hunting. You can go hunting on all the various islands for various animals, and basically you need some of their pelts or some of their bones and whatnot to upgrade all your stuff. What else is there? You can go plunder warehouses. You can go plunder ships out on the sea. That raises your wanted level, and eventually people will come after you, kind of similar to like Grand Theft Auto or something. There's various types of ships you can engage. There's man of wars, which are basically slow-moving death machines. You know, there's a whole bunch of stuff to do in this game, and it's really interesting. I really think that I definitely tried to really not only keep the historical sense, you know, as close to the real thing as possible, but also present a fun and, you know, interactive medium that the player is really going to enjoy. So, one thing I will say, you know, just very briefly touching on two other things in this game, is the graphics for this game, you know, just the colors and just, you know, the depth of them is really well done. I think that a lot of the islands, you know, when you're looking out at them from above, or, you know, when you're looking out, they look really great. Okay, they look fantastic. And the soundtrack is great to boot. So, you already have two great things going for you with this game. And to be honest, this is one of my favorite games of 2013. It's just, they do so many things right that the stuff they do wrong is kind of, come on, you know, like, It's like little niblets, but I don't know if it's because 2013 wasn't that good of a year, or if 2013, wasn't particularly, too crowded. Well, it was crowded with games, but none of them were too good. But this game definitely is one of my favorites. It's it's definitely in the top 5. But I can't really tell. Is it like number 2, number 3? Does it warrant number 1? Like, I can't really tell. But this game is great. The story. Again, the story admittedly could have been a bit better structured. I think that if you're here for the Assassins versus Templar arc, you're going to be very disappointed because it's pretty much very absentee, except for some side missions which are optional up until like the last couple of sequences or chapters in the game. If you're here for the pirate story, I think you'll be enthralled for like the first couple of sequences, and then once the Assassins versus Templar story kicks in, you're going to be kind of confused if you don't know what's going on. So again, like if you're like a hard-edge fan for either one or the other, you're going to be confused at some point. But if you take the generalness of it and you just take it in, I think you'll enjoy the story. It's definitely something you want to sit through. So, what would I rate Assassin's Creed? Whoa! I didn't even talk about the multiplayer. Now, the multiplayer, admittedly, I could have played a little bit more of. The multiplayer I didn't really touch too much, but the multiplayer is pretty similar to other Assassin's Creed. Like, I actually kind of want to do something. So the multiplayer is pretty similar to other Assassin's Creeds. You pick a character, you do all this other stuff. They brought back Wolfpack and all these other game modes. So the multiplayer, again, I'll say the same thing about it from Assassin's Creed 3 that I said, and all the other stuff. It's good, it's fun, but for me, because I've played so much of it, I played so much of it in Brotherhood, and it didn't really change. I didn't really play too much of it, because again, it got kind of repetitive, and that's kind of me for multiplayer this year anyway. I haven't been playing as much multiplayer as I like to. Really, the only game I really played a multiplayer for is Battlefield 4. So sorry about that. I wish I could say more, but definitely, would I say that the single player is worth $60? Pretty much. 50 maybe, 40 definitely. But the single player is definitely good, and the multiplayer is there too if you like it. And there's a lot of stuff to do in both parts of the game, and I enjoyed it. So ultimately, what would I give Assassin's Creed 4 out of on my verdict scale? First of all, I will say that if you do want an action adventure game that's grand and great, this is definitely the game you want to buy. This is the game that you want to look to because there's a lot of stuff to do in it. It's basically one of the better action adventure games I've really played. You can really get the sense that the open world is massive and there's a lot of stuff to do in it, and you can travel very far in it. It's good. I like that about this game. It's very, very well done. So again, that's where it becomes kind of hard because how well done is it? In fact, at one point I encountered basically a game-breaking bug where the game refused to load the next mission, and in fact refused to release me from the infinite loading screen. Now, luckily, like in Batman Arkham Origins, I lucked out at some point and I was able to progress. But otherwise, that would have been very bad for the game if I could not complete the actual game. So what would I say about Assassin's Creed 4? I'll say that Assassin's Creed 4 is going to get a 94 out of 100 for me. It's just that fun to play. Now, most of the points that I take off are because of the glitchiness of some of the little tedious stuff, that happens in this game. And I feel that it could have been a bit better. It could have been, well done. And it could have been repaired, and maybe in due time it will be. But as it stands, when I played the game, that was the issue that happened, and unfortunately, that's what I had to end up giving it. So a 94 out of 100 is still a great, great score. There's definitely a lot of interesting stuff to be done in this game, and in fact, it's definitely got to be one of my favorite games that I played last year, and definitely for the last couple of years as well. So I fully enjoyed it. I mean, I played 141 parts of it. You can tell that it gets really good around the midpoint, and unfortunately, around the midpoint is where all the glitches started to happen, so I don't know about that. You draw your own conclusions. But, yeah, definitely a great game. I think Ubisoft has really outdone themselves again, and let's hope that they can do the same for Watch Dogs and other games. So, I'm SpraynPray1000. I hope this review was informative, and thanks for watching.